How's it going, team? I'm super excited today to talk through how to go from being a graphic designer to a UX designer. I was so excited this morning that I even put on my yellow vest to match for the occasion. Anyway, every graphic designer we've ever met has had a deep emotional connection to their work. Yet, while we all want a career that provides meaning and purpose, the emotional connection of a graphic designer to their work can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's what makes you great at your job. You genuinely care about your work. But at the same time, it might be what's driving you away from graphic design. Few stakeholders and clients recognize and even respect the work that you're putting in. And putting in your blood, sweat, and tears only to receive overly subjective feedback like, I don't know, I just don't really like it, can be really heartbreaking. It's for those exact reasons why we see so many people switching from graphic design to UX design. UX design allows for the same creative freedom as graphic design, but without a lot of the headaches of subjectivity. UX gives you the tools so you can deeply understand who you're designing for. This way, you can back up your design decisions with actual research and create your best work possible. And the good news is that as a graphic designer, your skill set puts you way ahead of the thousands of other aspiring UX designers who have gone through boot camps, taken university programs, or just taught themselves. So, what does it take to make the switch from graphic design to UX design? In this video, we'll cover the key differences between graphic design and UX design, the 4 reasons why you should consider switching from graphic design to UX design, the 5 transferable graphic design skills that will make you an excellent UX designer, and finally, we'll cover step-by-step how to actually transition from graphic design to UX design. But before we fully dive in, if you appreciate the content that we've been putting out into the world and have been asking yourself, how can I help out Kick-Ass UX? Then ask no further. Just like this video and subscribe if you already haven't to show the algorithm that our content is worthwhile. You can also add a comment while you're at it. Okay, back to business. So starting out, what's the difference between graphic design and UX design? Despite sharing the word design, graphic designers and UX designers play different roles and have different responsibilities. But before we dive into those differences, let's make sure we're on the same page about what UX design actually is. Simply put, UX design is the process of making a product or service, both digital and physical, useful, relevant, and meaningful for people. So much of a user's experience is how they feel when they use your product. And as a UX designer, you become the advocate for the user throughout the entire design process. So let's talk about the 4 phases of the UX process. First is research and understanding. UX designers research, observe, and talk to users to understand their journey, identify pain points, understand their goals, and help improve the experience. Is the product delightful? Is it easy to navigate? Can they find what they want without really thinking about it? Do they enjoy the process of using it? Is it accessible to different types of users? Once you've found those pain points, you research some more and ideate on possible solutions. The goal is to get out as many ideas as possible. Then, you'll develop prototypes to test with users to know that you're going the right way. Once you know you're going in the right direction, you create the final designs and hand them off to developers or manufacturers if you're working on a physical product. At first, this might sound familiar to what you're doing as a graphic designer. You also think about the customer journey, test ideas, and want to create an enjoyable experience. So what really separates UX from graphic design? Here's our breakdown. As a graphic designer, your primary responsibilities are to craft a cohesive and enjoyable aesthetic or brand and visually communicate your company's message. Your tools are colors, typography, text, images, and illustrations. Graphic design is what most people think of when you hear the word designer. As a UX designer, your goal is to discover and solve the user's core problems. This means that you're responsible for more than just the look of a product. Instead, you have to consider the user's needs, motivations, and experiences. Your tools make up the UX process, and they range from user research to information architecture, to business analysis, to content strategy, interaction design, and visual design. If that sounds like a lot of hats to wear, you'd be absolutely right. UX design work is collaborative and often invisible. When you do it right, it just works. Moving on, let's talk through the 4 reasons why you should consider switching from graphic design to UX design. Due to the nature of their work, UX designers often take on more responsibility than graphic designers. However, to flip one of our favorite comic book quotes, with great responsibility comes great power. Because we run a UX design bootcamp that's specifically crafted to help graphic designers transition to UX, we've spoken with tons of people in your position. And time again, we hear the exact same reasons why people want to switch from graphic design to UX design. First, they want a bigger seat at the table. UX designers get under the hood of the product they're working on. you become the authority of what your users actually need, which means your choices have a larger impact on both the user and the business. If you're tired of just making things pretty, mastering the UX process gives you more responsibility, authority, and impact on business goals. The second reason, there are more job opportunities at really exciting companies. Graphic and visual design is still a vital part of any company. However, many companies have shifted their focus away from the visuals to the overall experience and usability. One study from Hired.com found a 289% increase in UX jobs over the past few years. In other words, you'd be hard-pressed to find a designer job that doesn't ask for some understanding of UX principles. The third reason why people are switching? A higher salary. While we believe the other three reasons are more important than a higher salary, there's no denying that UX pays well. Crowdsourced data show that the average salary in the US for UX designers is around $100,000, whereas for graphic designers, it's around $50,000. And the final reason why people are switching? Because they still get to be creative on a daily basis. Every graphic designer we've talked to loves design and thrives on being creative every single day. The idea of not being able to use that creativity all the time is kind of like losing a part of their soul. It's not negotiable. It's a big reason why so many of them have stuck to their jobs in the first place. With UX, you still get to be creative daily, so you don't have to lose out. Switching your career path from graphic design to UX design can put you back in control, open up your world, and potentially double your salary. But most importantly, it can help take your creativity and skill set to the next level. Now, let's talk about the 5 transferable graphic design skills that will make you an excellent UX designer. The good news is that there are a ton of skills that overlap between graphic design and UX design. Not only is the design thinking process that many graphic designers are used to incredibly similar to the UX process, because design thinking is a central part of UX, but you're already well versed in harnessing your creativity, thinking outside of the box, and collaborating with other stakeholders like developers, product managers, marketers, salespeople, you name it. In fact, it's safe to say that your background as a graphic designer is a value add when becoming a UXer. Here are a few key skills you can bring with you through any graphic designer career change. Empathy. Whether you work in-house or at an agency, your job as a graphic designer requires an understanding of your audience. You need to know who you're designing for so you can create the visual aesthetic that builds trust and authority with your audience. UX design takes empathy to the next level. You'll be conducting tons of user research throughout the entire design process, and you'll get to know your users intimately. Next up is collaboration. Graphic design is a collaborative discipline. On any given day, you'll work with developers, marketers, support agents, and sales reps to create the assets they need while also maintaining the company's brand. The soft skills you've acquired while working with a wide range of people will only benefit you as you move into UX. UX is all about communication. Third are industry standard tools. As a graphic designer, you've probably dabbled in every prototyping and design tool imaginable, from Photoshop to Figma to Webflow, you name it. Many of these are the exact same tools used by UX designers. Just knowing how to use them will give you a massive leg up. It's kind of like learning a new instrument, but already knowing how to read sheet music. Fourth, design trends and conventions. As a graphic designer, you already know the theory and principles that go into great design. As a UX designer, this will help you quickly identify why users might be running into a specific problem. You'll be able to see where an experience is visually stuck or confusing without needing to do as much in-depth research. Finally, creativity and aesthetics. Your ability to think outside of the box and your creative spark are the greatest graphic design skills that transfer to UX design. Graphic designers often need to produce fresh takes on old designs, while UX designers often need to find new and interesting ways to tackle conventional user problems. Of course, there are a few key differences that can potentially hinder your transition if you're not careful. First are static versus responsive designs. Graphic designers tend to focus on static deliverables. This is especially true for print design. For example, a logo. It's designed for only one size. Of course, there are variations, but the logo doesn't adapt to the size of the device or the surface that you're looking at it. Whereas UX designers have to work with responsiveness in mind. They have to adapt their designs to different screen sizes so their solutions are usable for everyone. For example, websites have to adapt from desktop to mobile screens. So, designers have to design for every major breakpoint. Second, high fidelity designs versus iterative problem solving. Graphic designers spend far more time in high fidelity. What you show users is as close to done as possible. In comparison, UX designers test early and often with low fidelity prototypes or even wireframes. You'll have to let go of the mindset of only showing finished work. Finally, let's talk through step by step how you actually switch from graphic design to UX design. For some people, the transition from graphic to UX design happens suddenly. They take on a new role and need to learn on the job, or decide to switch by going to a UX bootcamp. While for others, it's a process that happens gradually over the years. That's the case for Naomi Menahan. Over the past few years, she went from being an assistant art director to a lead UX designer at Salesforce. We interviewed her to learn more about how she made her transition to UX. You can find her interview on our channel. Since you're here, you're probably looking for the quickest route into a new career. So here are the exact steps you need to take to switch from graphic design to UX design. First, take stock of your skills and the ones you still need to learn. Changing any career starts with understanding where you currently are and what skills you still need to work on. As Naomi explains,
you have to understand, even though you're still in the creative world, this is a whole new world. And so being humble enough to say, I need to start from the beginning and really understand this. And I have this additional added value of the graphic design, which is great and which will serve you. But just be humble enough to kind of put your head down and learn the human-centered design process, the design thinking, all this jargon that we use, be able to look at other people's portfolios, network, all that. It's going to be like, it's like starting a new thing, like a new language.
Use this list as a starting point to catalog your current skill set. How confident do you feel in your empathy and ability to understand and advocate for users, collaboration, and other soft skills like communication and presentation, mastery of common design and prototyping tools, understanding design trends and conventions, and your overall creativity and problem-solving skills. Next, go through the 6 core disciplines of UX and see what you know about each. First is user research, where you might conduct user interviews, run usability studies, conduct heuristic evaluations, and all sorts of other research methods. Next up is business analysis, which is all about understanding the business's goals and strategies and how that fits in with the product. Then it's information architecture. This is all about designing navigation, creating sitemaps, and organizing information logically through schemes and structures. Next up is content strategy, which is all about using content to guide users. Fifth is interaction design. This is where you create storyboards, sketches, wireframes, prototypes, and animations that map to users' mental models. Finally, there's visual design. This is all about creating style guides, applying color theory, choosing typography, and designing the final user interface. This can be a lot to cover at once, and you'll probably notice that there's a lot you still don't know. But be gentle with yourself. Switching from graphic design to UX design is a process. You need to know where you're starting from before you can know where to go to next. After you've taken stock of your skills, pick your education path, either a bootcamp, university, or doing it yourself. UX bootcamps are short, intensive programs that guide you through the UX process and give you hands-on help from industry experts. Then there's the university route. While there really aren't many undergraduate UX design programs, there are plenty of UX master's programs that can help you become a UX designer. This is by far the longest and most expensive option. The last option is to teach yourself. There are tons of resources online to help you learn UX, from blogs to books to podcasts to free courses like our free UX course for graphic design. Link in the description. Learning UX on your own is by far the cheapest option. However, the lack of structure can be really frustrating, and you don't always know where to look to find the right answer. The biggest issue with doing it yourself is a lack of mentorship. You can end up wasting months of time doing the wrong thing, and all the while, you're not getting helpful feedback to help you grow as a designer. Each option has its pros and cons. As a graphic designer, you'll want to look at each option through the context of your experience and skill set. You're already coming into this career change with certain skills and tools that others need to learn from scratch. So, picking a UX bootcamp that spends weeks or even months training you on basic visual design principles can be an absolute waste of your time. That's why we created UX UI Expert, the only UX program that's specifically made for graphic designers to transition to UX. You can learn more about UX UI Expert on our website, or if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us directly. Next, after picking your education path, we recommend you spend even more time learning user research. Above all else, UX design is user-centric. If you don't know who your user is or how to engage with them, you'll never be able to design intuitive and enjoyable experiences. UX designers use many different methods for learning about users depending on the context and situation. One day, you might be doing a competitive analysis of different products, while the next you're running surveys, user interviews, and creating affinity diagrams. Don't worry if any of those words confused you. User research is a huge part of the UX process and takes time to learn. We've even put together a beginner's resource on user research if you want to dig in. Link in the description. User research helps you question your assumptions, which is something you can use throughout your UX career. UX design is a discipline that is constantly evolving and changing, and the best UX designers are constantly questioning their process, work, and goals. Next, brush up on your soft skills of collaboration and communication. While collaboration is one of the transferable skills you're taking with you from graphic design, it deserves special attention as you start doing UX work. UX designers have to be excellent communicators. Much of your time will be spent talking to users, working with stakeholders, collaborating with developers or other specialists, and presenting your findings. Great UX designers have empathy for everyone involved in the process. They understand what's feasible from a business aspect so they can better collaborate with other stakeholders. And they know the limitations of technology so they can better ally with developers. After you've worked on your soft skills, start practicing the UX process. UX is a practical skill. As much as you can read about the fundamentals, they only really start to make sense when you put them into practice. And that's the fun part. You can pick any tool, product, service, or business to try out your UX skills on. You might not have their internal tools or be able to reach out to their users, but you can certainly do your own research, frame the problem, and propose solutions. As Naomi told us,
I will say also, I do work with interns and people who are trying to get into UX as well, not necessarily from a graphic design background. And sometimes it does feel like people think it'll be like a quick kind of magic trick of like, oh, I just do this for 3 months and then I'm going. And I have to like slow them down and say, you can get the fundamentals and you can start, but you're at the beginning of your journey. And so let's set expectations correctly where it's like, there's a lot to learn and how that looks and how that translates in real life. And what does this design workshop look like? And what does collaborating with other UXers look like? All that. And again, I'm still learning 15 years in. So it's just know where you are in your journey, accept it, embrace it, and enjoy it. And just learn every day.
The more you go through the UX process, the more it will make sense. Plus, as a graphic designer, you'll be able to present your solutions in a beautiful and exciting way. Once you've worked on a few case studies, it's time to build a UX portfolio that people will notice. Every designer needs a portfolio of work, and UX is no different. However, UX portfolios can be hard to get right. Yes, you are showing a finished product, but you're also trying to explain your thought process, research, and why you made the decisions you made. It's a lot to capture, and unfortunately, not a lot of people get it right. As someone who has gone through hundreds, if not thousands of UX portfolios, here are the 3 elements that Naomi says are missing from too many portfolios. First, personality. Too many portfolios look and feel the same. Instead, you need to show what makes you, you. Embrace your graphic design background. Craft a portfolio that shows what you care about. Next is an in-depth explanation of your why. Your portfolio is really just a collection of your decisions. Hiring managers want to understand why you made the choices that you did. What data did you use? Who did you speak with? What research methods did you take advantage of, and why? Finally, showing your process. UX portfolios can't just show the finished product. Instead, you need to describe the process you actually went through. This doesn't just mean listing the fundamentals of the UX process, but rather explaining your process. What did you actually do? Which steps did you have trouble with? Be honest. And finally, after you've done everything else, keep learning. UX design can be super overwhelming when you're just starting out. There are so many frameworks and terminologies you could learn, and each phase of the UX process, from research all the way through to visual design, requires years of focus to truly master. Transitioning from graphic design to UX design means getting comfortable with what you do and don't know. Ultimately, you'll get on a team that supports you and your growth. But to begin with, it's important not to get too overwhelmed with the path in front of you. As Naomi explains,
there were times where you feel like, especially when you're starting out, like you need to have all the answers and you're the one who needs to find the answers by yourself. You have a whole team. And it's okay to like true collaboration and true teamwork where sometimes you have the answers and sometimes you don't and others do, but you have to communicate, be transparent.
Are you ready to make the leap from graphic design to UX design? We truly believe that UX design is one of the best and most exciting careers out there, especially for graphic designers. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more like it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Of course, if you know anyone who might benefit from it, please share it with them. And if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to comment below or reach out to us directly. Thanks for watching.